Hey guys, Sherry Fox here with What the Fox. Now, how many of you have ever had a hole in your bathtub or do have a hole in your bathtub? Maybe it's not even a hole, maybe it's a crack. Maybe you were doing some repair work and you dropped a tool, maybe your kids did it, or maybe you've got glass doors on your bathtub, but you'd like to take those down, but you're thinking, oh my gosh, if I take those down, I'm gonna have all these holes in my bathtub. Regardless as to why you have a hole or a crack in your bathtub, it needs to be fixed because you're gonna get moisture, you're gonna get water, and that's gonna create mold, and no one wants that. So now you're like, okay, Sherry, how are we gonna fix this without spending thousands and thousands of dollars? Well, I'm from the South, and most of the time we would just slap a piece of duct tape on it, and that fixes everything. But just for you guys, I decided to hold off on the duct tape, and I'm gonna show you how to fix this for less than $20. What I'm using today is an epoxy putty made by Weld. Now they make several different kinds, but I'm going to be using the Waterweld. Let's get started. This one is a Waterweld, and it's specially formulated because it will actually set up underwater if you need it to. Now you can use this on plastic, copper, you can use it on your drains, you can use it on your boat if you'd like. I mean, it has a lot of different uses. So let me show you how we're going to do this. The first thing we want to do is you want to take, this is just 100 grit. This is just a sanding block. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually scuff the area up. Because what we want to do is we just want to just make it rough a little bit. Give it something for this epoxy to adhere to. So once you get it scuffed up a little bit, now we're just going to take, this is just regular rubbing alcohol, and we're just going to clean the area. So let's go ahead and open it up, and when you open it up, you're going to it's going to be a little tube. So let's go ahead and open it, and what's going to come out of this tube, it's just going to look like this. And if you look on the end, it's different colors. See how it's a different color? But now we don't need all of this because this is just a small tiny hole. So we just need a little bit for this area because we have a little hole here and then there's a crack over here. So what we want to do is, since we don't need a lot of this, and let's just go ahead and cut just a little bit off. And we really don't even need that much. But we can take the rest of this, because it'll stay good for a little while, just put it back in your tube. And then put the lid on. Now there is a plastic coating on the outside of this, so let's just go ahead and peel that off, and you'll get rid of that. Okay, now once you get the plastic piece off, if you'll look, you see you kind of have two different colors here. And what you want to do is you just want to start taking this and kneading it between your fingers. Now you can wear some gloves if you'd like, but it will wash off your hands. But I don't know if you can kind of see, but it still has a little bit of two different colors there. We really just want to keep kneading this together until it just makes one color. Now it's going to heat up in your hands just a little bit. Oh. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't get that hot. I'm just playing. But anyway, it will get a little warm in your hands, but just keep kneading it until it becomes one solid color. Now, once you have your epoxy and it all seems to be one color, and like I said, it will heat up in your hands just a little bit. It'll start to get warm. If it starts to get warm, then you really don't have a lot of time before this starts to set up. So you kind of want to work quickly, but you still have a little bit of time. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to break a little bit off because these are very small holes. So we're just going to put a little right in these holes. And you just want to make sure and cover the entire area. And this part does not have to be perfect. Just make sure you have the hole covered. And you can go a little bit on the outside. And if you get way too much, you can take a straight razor blade if you like and scrape some of it off, but I like to leave a little because we're going to go back and sand this and make it really smooth. So I don't really like taking a lot of that off because I really want this to set up, and then we're going to sand it down and make it smooth. So just kind of work it in those holes, or if you've got a crack, just smooth it over your cracks. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect, so don't try to get it completely perfect. Just make sure everything is covered, because we can always go back and apply a second coat if we need to. And that's of course where the patience is going to come in if you have to do a second coat. But now this will dry in about 25 minutes, but it usually takes about an hour or so for it to completely cure and to set up. But I'm going to let this dry for a few hours because I'm not in any rush and I really just want it to set up. So we'll just come back and we'll check this. Oh, I'd say in about 2 or 3 hours. But yeah, we'll just come back and check this in a couple hours. Now, I wouldn't recommend using a hand sander on this just because it's going to take a lot of elbow grease to get this to smooth out. But you can use a rotary sander, and typically that's what I would use. But this was in an area that was kind of hard to reach, so I decided to use my angled sander. Okay, I'm going to start out with some 80 grit sandpaper on this just because, you know, I did put it on just a little thick. And we're going to get it smooth, and then we'll work our way up, and I'll go to a 220 grit sandpaper. That way we can get all of this nice and smooth. And don't forget, guys, just have a little patience when doing this. Alright, now we've got our 220 grit sandpaper on here, and this is just going to ensure that we've got everything nice and smooth because we've already knocked the excess off. So let's just smooth it out. After using the 200 grit sandpaper, guys, I'm going to go ahead and follow it up and use some 400 grit sandpaper. After everything is sanded, you really want to feel the area because sometimes touch is better than sight. And this is also where you want to inspect and make sure you don't need to put a second coat or a second layer of this epoxy on here. Because, you know, sometimes you might have an indention or you might have something that is just not, it didn't get filled. Well, you can always go back and just put a second coat on it. Now, this was an actual hole, but this method can also be used if you have any cracks in your bathtub. It can be used on a bigger hole as well. Personal experience, I've actually patched holes about the size of a 50-cent piece with this. It does take a couple of coats, but it is possible. And it's a lot cheaper than replacing your bathtub. Now, as you can see, this is discolored, but the good news is you don't have a hole in your bathtub. And this summer, I'm actually going to show you how to paint this entire bathtub so that we can get it one color. But now all you have to do is just take a damp rag, clean up the excess, and now you have a bathtub that doesn't have a hole in it. And it's just that easy, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video today, or at least I saved you some money. And if you like what we're doing here, guys, smash that like button for me. And can I encourage you to subscribe? I'd greatly appreciate it. But when you do, don't forget to click that little bell. That way, when I upload new videos, you'll be the first to know. This is Sherry saying you guys can easily do this. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in to What the Fox. Until next time, take care.